I think the majority of the question will be from me and Dr. Latif in the finals, which is 40%. Okay. So yeah. So boleh nampak? Boleh nampak kan?
Nampak.
Right, good. So last week been discussing on the Kelvin cycle or carbon fixation. Okay, so how glucose are being formed. Okay, so this week we're going to be learning the opposite metabolic activities, right? The contrary metabolic activities to photosynthesis, which is respiration. Okay, so respiration is simple, right? The main purpose of doing respiration is to produce ATP. Okay. Cuma respiration ni happens every seconds. Okay. It's not like photosynthesis process. Okay. Remember photosynthesis process ada dua. There are two photosynthesis. The two parts of photosynthesis processes, which is light dependence and light independence. Okay. Light dependent takkan berlaku kalau tak ada cahaya, right? And then the Kelvin cycle will not happen if there is no substrate from photosynthesis light dependent punya process, and then if there is no carbon dioxide for the substrate. Okay, that is the limitation. Okay, the limitation of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide, and then cahaya, and then temperature lah. Right, temperature, light dengan carbon dioxide. Light is not something that we discuss. It's not like temperature is not something that we discuss very great details. Okay, dalam dua processes, which is dark cycle dengan light cycle, okay, light dependence dengan light independent. Okay, tapi temperature ni very important because any metabolic activities involve reaction, right? All metabolic activities involve reaction, right? Many of the reaction, right? The majority of the reaction ada catalyst dia, which is enzyme. Okay, and then enzyme is temperature dependent. So even though that temperature is not playing a direct effects on the reaction in light dependent and light independence, tapi indirectly it's play important role in photosynthesis by activating ataupun inactivation of enzyme, right? You know that enzyme ada threshold temperature dia, ada minimum temperature dia, ada maximum temperature, ada optimum temperature, right? If this enzyme if the temperature does not fit the optimums ataupun the minimums, right? The minimum is the minimum temperature for the enzyme to be functioning. Lower than that, the enzyme will be in dormant. Okay, if the enzyme is in dormant, right? So metabolic activities akan terganggu lah, right? And then if the temperature is too much beyond the maximum temperature that the enzyme can hold, right? So the enzymes will be degraded. Not only the enzymes, any proteins, okay, dia akan degraded lah. For example, more than 45 degrees, basically banyaknya proteins dia dah slow down lah, right? So that's why factors that determining the efficiency or the activation ataupun the functionability of the photosynthesis ada light, ada temperature, ada carbon dioxide. Okay, water is also important tapi not important as the major factors. Okay, yang tiga tadi, which is carbon dioxide, light dengan temperature. So again, the respiration happens every minute, not as the photosynthesis. There are the limitation. Okay, respiration also have their own limitation, tapi it's not as ada clear limitation macam photosynthesis lah, right? And still, because of the respiration is metabolic activities, so it still involve enzymes. So temperature is still one of the factors. Okay, temperature not for the photosynthesis and the respiration, not only for the respiration and photosynthesis je. Any metabolic activities in the cell, in the cell punya environments adalah temperature dependent. Okay. So respiration ni happens every seconds, right? Macam kita manusia, right? We don't do photosynthesis, but we do respiration. Even when we are resting, right? Even we are sleeping, right? You still doing respiration. So what's the signs of you are doing respiration when you're sleeping? Haris, what the sign of you doing respiration when you are sleeping?
Breathing. Breathing.
Breathing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. That is breathing, means that you are taking oxygen, right? So because of even we are resting, even we are sleeping, right? So kita tidur tak static, right? Kita moving around pun needs ATP, right? Kita bernafas pun needs ATP, alright? Even we are resting, even we are sleeping, the metabolic activities in our body still working. It just probably in not as the optimum ataupun the maximum as we were in the day, during the day, right? Dia ada metabolic activities tapi slow down lah sebab kita resting. Alright, so when we wake up and we start, okay, start back our daily routines, means that we need more ATP because we're moving around. We need more ATP. So at that time, the factory, which is the mitochondria in our cell, will start working. Increase the capacity of the to produce more ATPs lah, to facilitate ataupun accommodate the needs of the ATP. Itu dalam manusia dengan dalam manusia in animals dengan plants ni tak jauh beza. The concept is the same. Alright, probably there's some specific electron carrier, for example, will be different, right? Tapi manusia dengan animals dengan plants generally the same, except we don't do photosynthesis. So we start with carbohydrate metabolism. Okay. Metabolism ada dua, ada catabolism, ada anabolism. Alright, catabolism adalah set of metabolic pathway that break down molecule into smaller units and release energy. Okay, basically this is respiration, right? From one complete ataupun one complex unit, okay, dia akan undergo a breakdown process and then will release energy. Alright, so one of the example lah. Okay, for respiration is one of the catabolic activities. Okay, there are many other catabolic activities. Okay, yang daripada kompleks, okay. For example, pemecahan proteins ataupun the breaking down of proteins or breaking down of proteins or lipids, okay, from the very complex ataupun from the very complex structure, ataupun cell wall, a very complex structure, okay. When the carbohydrate is not enough from the photosynthesis to cater the respiration process, so the breaking down of more complex akan berlaku lah, okay. Anabolism is the set of metabolic pathway that construct molecules from smaller unit. This reaction require energy. Okay. Ni macam process of photosynthesis, alright? From the carbon dioxide, okay, dia ada, if you remember in the Calvin cycles, during the reduction process, the conversion of sugar A to sugar B, the conversion of structure A to structure B require an ADPH and then ATP, right? Because from one single carbon dioxide will be combined with five other carbon dioxides to form a 6 carbon glucose, right? That is anabolism. Okay, yang lain contoh dia adalah biasanya orang ambil angkat berat, apa? Orang panggil anabolic drug. Okay, so itu pun anabolic tu untuk membina tisu atau menambahkan otot lah. Right, that's anabolism. This is one of the catabolic activities, alright, from food, carbohydrate, proteins, and fats, alright, will be broken down to acetyl-CoA and then be in the in mitochondria, alright, akan masuk respiratory change. Respiratory change ni dalam nanti kita we go in details lah, right? To produce ATP. Okay, carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, ada 4 stage: glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation, Krebs cycles, electron transport change. Okay, if you remember, there are two major activities, metabolic activities that have electron transport change. One is photosynthesis, electron transport change during the light dependence, right? Yang kedua adalah electron transport change in the mitochondria during respiration. Right, ada glycolysis tadi. Glycolysis ada pemecahan glucose, right? Glycolysis, glucose, cis pemecahan. Right. Pyruvate oxidation, okay, time ni pyruvate oxidation yang kita tambah oksigen. Oxidation is penambahan oksigen. Right? Penambahan oksigen daripada pyruvate. Okay. Krebs cycle is the cycles macam Calvin cycle, alright. There are a lot of enzyme involved, alright, and then molecule conversion from A to B to C to D to E to F to D, right? For every conversion, the specific enzyme that responsible to convert from structure A to structure B to structure C to structure F and blah blah, right? And it's like Calvin cycle, right? My principle is same, okay. Don't have to remember every single step, but ada some few key step that you have to at least know lah, right? The general how the Krebs cycle ataupun citric cycle function, right? It's functioning. And then electron transport change. In this picture. So all this hustle in the respiration processes that involve 4 different stages, right? during the respiration is is only to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, each molecule of ATP is a nucleotide. Okay, ada base adenines, ada pentose sugar, ada triphosphate groups. Okay, ada 3 phosphate group. That's why ada nama dia adenosine triphosphate. Okay, the structure of ATP. ATP ada 3P phosphate. Alright, so adenine, ada sugar. Okay, if you remove 1P here, phosphate, dia akan jadi ADP. Right, ADP plus 1PI. Alright, dengan phosphate ni organik, dia akan jadi triphosphate. Okay, so ada akan berlaku hydrolysis, alright, pemecahan ATP. So bila pecah, bila terputus, right, this is very concentrated energy store, right. So maknanya energy ni dia ada store dalam these molecules, right. So bila dia breakdown, dia akan release energy, right. So the energy lies in the bonds between phosphate group. So that is ATP. ATP act as a temporary energy store. When ATP is hydrolyzed, ADP and phosphate in organic or P are produced, energy is released to carry out cellular activities, right? To carry out cellular activities, right? What does it mean by cellular activities? You know, some activities, right, it needs to be activated. Okay, the words activated sudah menunjukkan it needs ATP, alright. Sometimes, okay, enzymes need to be activated by phosphate ataupun by ATP, right? Contoh enzyme in activation in dalam dormant punya behavior, right? Dormant punya state, mungkin dia bentuk macam ni. The enzyme or proteins, right? But the substrate is this. Substrate can be second proteins, okay? Substrate can be carbon dioxide or any other molecules, okay? Protein, when it involve 2 types of proteins, right? Not sometimes, in many cases, untuk that proteins to protein A and protein B to react to each other, okay, dia akan needs ATP, alright? So this is the paling simple punya analogy. For example, this one is enzyme. Normally enzyme lah kan, right? Enzyme. So ni the original form dalam inactivated punya stage macam ni. So substrate is like this. So what okay, this protein needs okay, like I said, even though that enzymes has specific temperature, minimum temperature, specific minimum temperature, specific optimum temperature, right? Sometimes it still need to be activated, all right, for them to be in the right structure, okay, to accept substrate, right, to be binded into its active site. Okay, waktu ni active site ni mungkin tak nampak, right? So bila ada ATP, oh sini. So ATP plus PI, right? Some reaction just needs energy, right? So ADP and P will go and floating around the cell. But most events, okay, the terms activated tu adalah ATP will be broken down to ADP and P will attach to the protein atau enzyme, alright. So biasanya kita panggil phosphorylation, right, penambahan fosfat. So dia akan membentuk macam ni. Alright. So bila dia dah activated, okay, when it is activated, so it can accept substrate to be bind into its active site, right? So dalam ni kita bagi tahu, kita boleh katakan yang enzim tu dah activated, okay? Itu kepentingan ATP. Yang biasanya kita cakap kita memerlukan ATP untuk okay, untuk what we call that, to do senang cerita dalam sains lah. We need ATP for metabolic activities. We need ATP to carry out metabolic activities. We need ATP that kita nak do our daily routines. Okay. The actual one of the actual events in our cell, inilah dia punya function of ATP. Alright, ATP is needed to activate proteins ataupun molecules so that reaction can occur. Right? If there is no intervention by the ATP, right? For example, during the Kelvin cycles, during the reduction state, if there is NADPH but no ATP, so the reduction process will not happen, because if you see the structure during the reduction process, I can't remember the name of the molecules, right? 3-PGA or by-PGA, I cannot remember, right? But from A to B during the reduction process, right? Ini kan dia NADPH and then ATP, right? ATP, alright. If you realize, if you look at the structure, okay, B ni nama dia mesti biphosphate. Biphosphate, ada dua phosphate. So where does the other another phosphate coming from? It's coming from the ATP after the activation. Alright, activation, and then the electron transfer from NADPH. So that's why dia jadi phosphate. So this ATP broken down into ADP and P ni dia akan bind to the molecules, and then molecules tu akan ada extra phosphate lah. This is one of the activation, alright. Another activation, yang ni tak involve enzyme lah. This one involve molecules, but it still need ATP to activate the process. Alright. So the second, macam saya cakap tadi, proteins, mostly enzyme need to be activated, alright. So the ATP will come in and then will activate, fuel up the activities or transfer the phosphate. Bila dia transfer the phosphate tu, maknanya ada involvement of ATP lah. So means that fits the definition that, not fit the definition, fit the purpose of ATP, dia nak fuel up the metabolic activities. All of these are metabolic activities. That is the principle of the basic function ataupun fundamental function of ATP. Again, you don't have to remember this. You will not be telling this in the exam, I guarantee. Alright, but I think it's very good to give you the fundamentals knowledge. What is happening is actually for the ATP. You probably learning during the enzymes punya topics. You learn that activation of enzymes. Okay, enzyme got temperature dependence. Okay, enzyme berubah bentuk and then it can fit to the substrate, right? But behind that, right, ada orang kata the prior activities that makes the enzyme activated. You mungkin belajar, okay, activation of enzyme. But actually, these are the process, okay, the involvement of ATP in the activation process. Okay, where does this coming from? So the ATP is coming from the respiration process. Okay, the ATP is mostly generated in the place or in the area or in the compartments where the electron transport change occur. Okay, because dalam electron transport change itulah yang ada ATP synthase. Alright, the machine to combine ADP and ATP becomes ATP. Alright, perkara paling simple, tempat dia adalah tempat yang di mana ada electron transport change. Electron transport change means that rantaian pengangkutan elektron lah, kalau literally in bahasa Melayu lah. Right, dalam during light dependent, tu yang you belajar from photosynthesis, photosystem 2 jumping to plastoquinone and jumping to cytochrome B6 and jumping down to plastocyanin and go to the photosystem 1, and then finally the electron will be accepted by an ADP, become an ADPH. That is electron transport change. Alright, when electron transport change happens, alright, in some area in some proteins, during the electron transport change, if you still remember, bila electron transport from one proteins to another proteins in the thylakoid membranes, okay, dia akan pump in hydrogen. Okay, kita akan do the revision again lah, tapi dalam mitochondria. Alright, bila ada different concentration and then dia akan go up. If you still remember the analogy, kita dalam satu bilik yang kecil, alright, and very packed with peoples and everyone to go out. Alright, everyone to go out means that everyone is spending their energy, so release the energy, everyone to go out. So this energy is used to dalam kerangka, right, pokok, alright, ada ATP synthase tu adalah digunakan untuk to combine, alright, ADP dengan phosphate inorganics menjadi ATP. Alright, all the hasil tu, kita energy tu, alright, kita punya energy, alright, will be transferred to ADP and phosphate inorganic jadi ATP. So boleh dikatakan the energy from ATP tu actually adalah energy lah yang ditransfer during the hasil of the protons, right, dalam concentrated protons punya area, dia nak go for the less concentrated, right. If you still remember the chemio osmosis punya terms that I have explained to you during the light dependent. So this is hydrolysis of ATP, how ATP stores energy. Okay, so this simple je lah, alright. You boleh baca the only. Alright, so remember ada four major stages in respiration process: glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycles, and oxidative phosphorylation. Alright, dalam electron transport change. Okay, we go for the first stage, glycolysis. Alright, pemecahan glucose. Alright, glucose ada, we got 6 carbon. Glucose memang ada 6 carbons, right, from the photosynthesis. Even though we are just taking glucose, we're not doing photosynthesis, tapi kita makan carbohydrate, right. The most single sugar adalah simple sugar adalah glucose, alright. And then glucose ni akan go for the glycolysis process. Okay, will enter glycolysis process. Okay, untuk menghasilkan two pyruvate. Pyruvate is 3 carbons, right? 3 carbons. 3 carbon molecules. Pyruvate is not sugar, alright? Sugar, complete sugar lah, right? Glucose is a complete sugar, sucrose is complete sugar, fructose is complete sugar, but not pyruvate. Okay, so in this process, right, if you see here, okay, the four ATPs are produced, right, with the investment of 2 ATP, right? And then penghasilan, okay, dia ada series of reaction lah here. Okay, they spend ATP, okay, glucose. Okay, they spend 2 ATPs. Okay, kenapa 2 ATPs? Because dia nak menghasilkan 2 pyruvate here. Alright. So glucose ni akan pecah here and here. Alright. So coming ATP dan akan ada another bit. Alright. So they spend ATP here. Alright. And then the produce of glycolysis, dia akan produce 4 ATP. Right? You invest 2, you will get 4. Alright, 4 ATPs. And at the same time, along way the process, dia akan menghasilkan NADH. Right? NADH ada dalam respiration process ataupun glycolysis process ataupun carbohydrate metabolism. Alright? NADPH only occurs in the photosynthesis. Only present in the photosynthesis. Okay, jangan pula confuse pula. P kat mana, D kat mana, right? Dalam Calvin cycle, dalam Calvin cycle in the chloroplast and NADPH. Alright, during the metabolic activities and ADH. Alright, so from oxidized, alright, oxidized form of NAD will be reduced. Jadi NADH, alright, high and concentrated energy molecules because of dia bawa electron, the electron carrier. Okay, simple. Glycolysis. What is glycolysis? Glycolysis, dia pecahkan, okay, dia break down one carbon sugar menjadi 2, iaitu pyruvates, right? And then starting the process to break down the glucose, it needs ATP. So invest to ATP, right? In the returns, as for the returns, 4 ATPs are generated. Okay, tambah dengan NADH lah, 2 electron carriers. Okay, boleh. Okay, ini yang lagi kompleks lah. Kalau if you want to understand. Alright. So dia menghasilkan ATP for, this one for glucose, alright. Dia akan menghasilkan pyruvates, alright. Every pyruvates will what we call that? Along the way to produce pyruvate, the first pyruvate it will use 1 ATP. Alright? Dia akan produce 2 ATP. Okay, times 2 pyruvate, dia akan double everything lah. Okay, simple. And unless pyruvate kinase mutase ni tak payah hafal. Okay, phosphorate ni contoh je lah. Okay. Phosphorylation of glucose. So ada ATP tadi kan? ATP coming in, ATP becomes ADP plus P. P ni yang bawa phosphorylation. Right? So if you go and read journals or articles ke apa, ada perkataan kinase je belakang kinase. Maknanya itu adalah enzim yang terlibat dalam phosphorylation, penambahan fosfat. Normally involve ATP. Right? Ini just info lah. Okay. Walaupun you baru second year, tapi just info. So settle penambahan glucose. Oh ni banyak sangat lah. Saya pun tak ingat. Malas. Okay. Bawa transfer bla 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 sampai mana dah. Panjang sangat. Okay dah. Okay. Tadi first glucose, right? Settle, benda simple kan? Faham tak glycolysis? Tolak tepi lah all the reaction happens in the glycolysis. Tapi the general information ataupun general idea of why glycolysis happens, faham tak? Dia senang je, what and why and how. How to tak payah masuk sangat sampai all the details in the reaction. At least you know what is why. Okay, why itulah yang penting. Why glycolysis? Kenapa Tuhan jadikan glycolysis? Why not glycolysis tu from glucose tu terus transfer the ATP? Okay, adalah serial punya explanation. Okay, why glycolysis? Okay, so sekarang faham what is glycolysis and why glycolysis? Faham? Syairin, faham Syairin?
Boleh tak tu? Kena baca balik.
Okay, kenapa 4 ATP dihasilkan for one molecules of glucose? Syairin, saya tanya kamu. Why kenapa 4 ATP dihasilkan for every molecule of glucose? Kenapa? Syairin? Betul tak saya panggil nama? Syairin?
Betul.
Kenapa? Okay, Syairin.
Dia ada dua, dia buat 2 kali, dia ada 2 pyruvate.
Alright. So saya tanya, so saya bagi kamu peluang, you point finger je, siapa je saya nak tanya next. Alah, ada berapa orang dalam ni kan, ramai. So petik je nama.
Mas Rizal.
Mana Mas? Panggil dia Mas ke apa? Okay. Kenapa apa? Kejap. Saya gerakkanlah ni. Mas. Kejap. Okay. Apa tanda yang you boleh tahu phosphorylation tu happens in the reaction? Mas, saya ada student juga, you punya senior panggil Mas, tapi dia perempuan. So bolehlah ni panggil Mas. Mas Rizal. Pelik lah panggil Mas Rizal. Mas Rizal, what's the signs of any reaction involve phosphorylation? Macam mana you nak tahu tu ada involve phosphorylation? Oh, tak dengar. Ada problem speaker? Sorry, speaker pula, mic. Senang je, kalau tak nak jawab, kalau problem mic, you pinpoint member lain pula. Mas Rizal, saya tak dengar. or left the meeting block. Tak dengar lah Mas Rizal. Baru dengar satu suara. Sekejap je ni. Tak apa Mas Rizal. Mas Rizal. Obviously tengah pressure tu. Nak pasang mic. Tak apa. Siapa tadi? Kejap. Syairin, you pinpoint orang lain pula.
Orang lain tak ke?
Orang lain pula. Soalan tu sama. Dah petik je.
Alia.
Alia.
Saya doktor. Soalan apa tadi?
Macam mana kita nak tahu proses tu ada involve phosphorylation atau tak?
Rasa kalau sebab phosphorylation tu dia occur bila phosphate group tu dia transfer dekat one molecule. Dia transfer macam ke ATP tu.
To ATP or from ATP?
From.
Dan phosphorylation pun memang penambahan fosfat. So itu je lah. Okay. Simple soalan. Okay dah. Kita boleh continue. Okay, kita faham lah. So key point for glycolysis, pemecahan glukos pada 6 menjadi 2 molecules pyruvate. For every molecules pyruvate contains 3 carbons. Okay. And then invest 2 ATP akan menjadi 4 ATPs. Simple je. And then link reaction. Okay, link reaction adalah process where whether you are doing aerobics or anaerobics. Aerobics, I think you know, that involve oxygen, and aerobics without oxygen. So for anaerobics, without oxygen, alright, dia akan stop pada glycolysis. Okay, so bila the breakdown one molecule of glucose, right, dia akan end up sampai pyruvate. Pyruvate will not enter the link reaction or further process, but it will be converted into another molecule that finally will produce lactic acid. Okay, acid lactic. So the net ATP, kita tahu kan, the purpose of doing respiration ataupun carbohydrate metabolism is to produce ATP, right? So for anaerobics, sebab apa kita panggil anaerobic you tak efficient? Because of what? Because you invest 2, you akan produce 4 ATPs, tapi net ATP yang you dapat, right? You pinjam loan 2 ATP, you dapat 4 ATP, you bayar balik loan 2 ATP, you akan dapat bersih 2 ATP. Tak percaya, you google anaerobic punya respiration, berapa dia hasilkan? 2 ATP, net ATP, 2 ATP saja. Right? So in aerobic, this yang biasa orang panggil aerobic and aerobic, this is the reaction that separated anaerobic dan aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic, from pyruvate, dia akan go to produce acetyl CoA, which is 2 carbon. Ni very important. Ni point-point yang you kena hafal dan ingat. Right? From 3 carbon, you know that is 3 carbon, and finally 2 carbon. Right? So Okay, saya lupa saya nak beritahu ini. Sepatutnya kita kena belajar apa equation dia. Alright. Slow lah pula. Okay, nampak sini kan? Ni, on the right side tu, equation for aerobic respiration. Nampak kan? So, one molecule of glucose, okay, memerlukan 6 oxygen, okay, dia akan membebaskan, dia akan release 6 carbon dioxide. Alright? Sebab itulah dia ada 6, sebab dalam glucose ada 6 carbon, so as a result of the respiration, dia akan release juga balik carbon dioxide 6 molekul juga. So we're gonna see kat mana tempat carbon dioxide ni dibebaskan, kenapa 6 carbon, and where are they going. Alright, so number 1 is pyruvate. Okay, we know that from glycolysis ada 2 molecules of pyruvate. So sepanjang cerita ni saya akan cerita pasal 1 molecules of pyruvates. At the end of the calculation of ATP, you have to double 2 lah, because of ada 2 pyruvate. Okay, so sekarang ni pyruvate ada involvement of oxygen, okay, untuk dia akan release 1 carbon dioxide. Mana pula bilang. Akan buang satu. Alright. Dia akan jadi 2 carbon. 2 carbon molekul. Kita panggil acetyl-CoA. Alright. So dia akan menghasilkan produce lagi satu NADH. Okay, this one. Electron carrier juga. Alright. So, waktu reduction process in the photosynthesis, okay, carbon produce ni, alright, dia terima electron from NADPH. Alright. Bila breaking down into a smaller unit, dia akan membebaskan balik elektron selepas dia buang satu carbon dioxide. Alright. So, bila dia proses ni memang unik lah. Proses dalam sel itu hanya jadikan it's not photosynthesis ataupun respiration only. Ada proses as well. Right. Bila dia membebaskan satu, dia kena balance. Alright. The structure must be balanced. So electron akan one electron must be removed. Okay. Waktu formation dia dapat satu electron. Alright. And then dia remove lah. During the breaking down of the molecule ni, in this case is pyruvate menjadi acetyl-CoA ataupun 2 carbons. Okay. Settle. Tu je link reaction dia. Link reaction happens when oxygen is available. Okay, dah. And then Krebs cycle. Okay, kenapa? Okay, nak beritahu, okay. Ada 4 stages, only glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm. Right, remember that. Glycolysis always happens in the cytoplasm. Right. After pyruvate ni boleh sebab ada transporter dia. Right. Hanya pyruvate dibenarkan masuk. Alright, so Tuhan dah jadikan cantik lah. Right. Breaking down of glucose menjadi pyruvate, and then pyruvate boleh masuk kilang. Kilang ni, powerhouse ni, mitochondria lah. Alright. Alright. And then acetyl-CoA here. Okay, release of 1 CO2 here. Alright. Sekarang CO2 dia will be oxidized. acetyl-CoA will be oxidized to carbon dioxide in the Krebs cycle. Acetyl-CoA akan enter the Krebs cycle. Settle lah link reaction. Ada ATP dihasilkan waktu link reaction? No. Alright, tapi electron carrier, yes. Masuk Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle ni panjang sikit, pening. Gambar tak clear sikit lah. Tapi ni yang cakap macam Kelvin cycle juga. So dia ada cycle. Right. So ada citrate, isocyanates, alpha glutarate, succinate, saya tak ingat. Saya pun tak ingat. So nak kita kena tahu kawasan-kawasan yang ada penghasilan karbon dioksida. Okay. So ingat dia pyruvate ada 3 carbons, dia dah buang satu dah carbon during link reaction. So ada 2 tempat lagi dia akan release, which is in the Krebs cycle, right? You see here, 1 carbon, 2 carbon, alright? So cukup total 3 carbon dia dah buang. Inilah carbon dioksida yang kita bebaskan. Kita breathing tu, kita bernafas, inilah carbon dioksida yang at this stage lah carbon dioksida dilepaskan. So Krebs cycle will release 2 carbons and link reaction will release 1 carbons for every pyruvate. Remember, pyruvate ada 3 carbons, so kat sini dia buang. Alright. Dia dah buang 3 carbon. Remember yang saya cakap itu satu pyruvate. Sebab ada 2 pyruvate, kita double je 2. So link reaction akan release 2 carbon dioxides. And then Krebs cycle akan release 4 carbon dioxides, meaning that the total carbon dioxide release macam equation ni adalah 6 carbon dioxide. Settle masalah carbon dioxide. Okay, so kita macam saya cakap tadi, alright? The question is what and why. So why Krebs cycle wujud? Kenapa Tuhan jadikan Krebs cycle wujud? Right? So Krebs cycle, the function of the Krebs cycle is not to release the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide tu, it just byproduct. Alright, carbon dioxide is just byproduct. Alright, remember during the reduction processes in the photosynthesis or Kelvin cycle, there ada proses reduction, penerimaan elektron. Alright, so pada kawasan yang sama, pada reaction yang membebaskan carbon dioxide, so dia akan release elektron, which is dalam ni dia akan membentuk, dia akan reduce NAD+, nampak kat sini, NAD+ become NADH. Right, so the purpose of having Krebs cycle bukan bukan adalah to produce electron carrier. Alright, to produce electron carrier. Krebs cycle punya banyak-banyak ni, yang banyak step kat sini ni adalah to produce electron carrier. So in this place, dia menghasilkan 1 electron carrier, 2 electron carrier. Alright, Krebs cycle juga menghasilkan ATP. Bukan ATP, dia panggil GTP, kan ATP adenosine. GTP is guanine triphosphate. Guanine triphosphate. 1 ATP lah, kira panggil equal to 1 ATP lah. ATP. Right? Ini dia apa? Dia orang kata sambil-sambil lah. Orang kata sambil-sambil. Dia menghasilkan ATP. Right? Tapi the most important objective of having Krebs cycle is to produce electron carrier, because bila carbon dioxide dan dibebaskan, so electron need to be transferred somewhere. Dia kena ada electron acceptor, which is electron carrier. In this case, NADH. Alright, and then ada satu lagi we call FADH2. So FDH2 and NADH. This one lah. molekul yang sangat important dalam yang dihasilkan from the Krebs cycle. Alright, kenapa dia penting? Sebab dia electron carrier. So, ke mana pula lepas ni electron carrier nak pergi? Alright, macam electron transport change in the photosynthesis, electron carrier tugas dia hanya membawa elektron kepada tempat lain. In the photosynthesis, the transfer NADPH, the transfer the electron to reduce carbon dioxide tu menjadi glucose. Okay, the transfer. Sebab tu nama dia, that's why they are called electron carrier. Okay, faham What is Krebs cycles and why Krebs cycle? Right? And then final stage, electron transport change ataupun kita panggil or we call oxidative phosphorylation. Electron transport change and oxidative phosphorylation reoxidize NADH and FDH2 becomes NAD plus and FAD plus. This will go back to the Krebs cycle. Right? Settled. The electron transport change consists of a series of molecules, mostly proteins, embedded in the inner mitochondrial membranes. Kalau photosynthesis is a thallic membrane. Right? Settled. So, electron transport change ada complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4. Ada 4 complex. Settled. Oh, ni tak ada gambar rajah yang ni. Okay, Islam. We go through dulu lah slide ni juga. Okay, kita panggil tengok yang ni je. Right? Lebih gambar rajah. So, this happens in the inner thallic membranes. Okay. So, ada complex 2, complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4 and ATP synthesis. Okay. So, sebab nama dia electron transport change, okay, dia deal dengan elektron je lah. Sebab tu Tuhan jadikan Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle ni menghasilkan elektron. Right? Electron will be accepted by the electron carrier FADH and NADH. Alright. So, in the complex ones, okay, NADH dia akan reoxidize. Okay, oxidize maknanya losing electron. Alright. So, bila losing electron, dia akan release proton ke atas, masuk ke atas. This one outer mitochondria, inner mitochondria. This one mitochondrial matrix. Mitochondrial matrix. It's like macam kalau dalam kalau dalam chloroplast tu stroma lah. Okay. So, link reaction. Okay. Link reaction and Krebs cycle happens in mitochondrial matrix. Matrix tu macam aqueous solution yang contains many enzymes. Okay. Pyruvates punya glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, right? And then stage 4 ni electron transport change happens in the mitochondria, alright? Sebab this protein embedded in the mitochondria. Mitochondria ni ada dua lapis membranes. Okay, one outer membranes and then yang purple tu intermembrane. And then yang this one adalah inner membrane, right? So complex 1 protein, complex 1s, they accept NADH only. They tak accept FADH. it's only accept NADH saja. So bila release one electron dia akan pump one proton kat sini. Alright? Alright? And then FADH2, the complex 2 only accept FDH2 electron carrier. Alright? So same goes to NADH. FADH will oxidize, right? Will be oxidized, become FAD plus. Right? So electron pun akan jump je. Ni pun sama, dia akan jump. Alright. So electron akan jump. Okay. Tapi FADH2, alright, FADH2 doesn't release any proton ke dalam dalam intermembrane. Okay. Only NADH through complex 1. Alright. Tapi kat sini complex 3 baru dia akan release. Okay. Dia akan release kat sini. Alright. Proton akan release kat sini. Alright. Tapi bila dia electron jump from complex to complex 3, dia akan pump. Kita panggil pump out. Pump out lah. Kita panggil pump out. Proton kat sini. Alright. And then electron ni akan jump lagi from complex 3 to complex 4. Dia akan pump lagi proton. Alright. And then finally electron, alright, dia akan meet its final destination. Dia akan meet the final destination, which is nampak? Oxygen. Tambah 2 molecules of hydrogen. Becomes water. Alright? Electron must be dia tak boleh floating around. Alright? Electron tak ada istilah electron floating around dalam biological system. Alright? So that it has to be accepted. Alright? Kalau it is accepted by not suitable molecules tu akan ada extra electron dan dia akan jadi reactive, which is dia akan jadi free radicals. So kalau electron ni, right, oxygen, right, dia akan oxygen satu. So maknanya reactive, extra electron. So dia akan oxidize. Ni namanya free radicals. You go tengok iklan, okay, pakai vitamin E, okay, untuk protect your skin from radical bebas. Ni lah radical bebas dia. Alright. So, tapi kat sini kan setengah oksigen. Oksigen juga. Right? Alright. Right. Tapi the reaction happens simultaneously with the presence of the proton 2H plus becomes water. Right? So orang kata daripada water dia datang, daripada water dia kembali. Water ni waktu the first water split during the photosynthesis process. If you still remember in the photosystem 2, right? Water split becomes oxygens and the protons, right? In final destination of the electron in the respiration process, electron akan be accepted by electron acceptor, right? So dengan kata lain, the final electron acceptor, okay, complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4 is they are all electron acceptor, tapi the final electron acceptor is oxygens, alright, and then akan combine with protons, which is hydrogen, to form water. Sebab tu bila kita bernafas depan cermin, you will see wak, wak, wak. Macam tu lah. So, go back to the equation. Kita akan menghasilkan air. Alright, sorry. Kita akan menghasilkan air. And then, kita akan menghasilkan carbon dioxide waktu link reaction. And then, waktu Krebs cycle. And now, ATP pula. How does the ATP is formed? Sama concept in the photosynthesis process, dia kita panggil chemiosmosis. Chemiosmosis. Okay, sorry. Osmosis. Okay, chemiosmosis. Right? So, bila ada the electron are being transferred from matrix mitochondria into intermembranes, so the concentration of the protons here will be high, right? When the concentration is too high, okay, until to the level that kawasan tu dah tak cukup lagi, right? The space is not favorable enough to facilitate more incoming of the protons from the matrix to intermembranes, right? So protons akan keluar ke bawah. Alright, so the energy from the ATP synthesis, they like turbine. ATP synthesis like turbines. Okay, so bila the spins, the energy from the spins tu akan be transferred to the ADP plus phosphate menjadi ATP. So ATP settle. Go back to the equation. So kita dah discuss macam mana ATP dihasilkan. Air macam mana dia keluar. So how does the carbon dioxide produced? So now a bit more details on the ATP produced during the aerobic respiration. So these are the calculation. Alright. So every NADH, alright, molecules produced during the respiration process equal to 3 ATP. Maknanya one molecules of NADH can produce 3 molecules of ATP. Alright. FADH akan menghasilkan is able to produce 2 ATP, GDP 1 ATP je lah. Right, sebab dia happens dalam Krebs cycle only, right? And glycolysis, you still remember, it's produced 4 ATP with the expense of 2 ATP kan? Okay, calculation dia kat bawah. Okay, tak apa. Glycolysis produce 4 ATPs and 2 NADH for each molecules of glucose. Okay, total ATP produced during the glycolysis adalah, right? Okay, 4 ATP, alright. Darab jadi 6 ATP because of what? Because of it produce 2 ATP, one molecule's ATP is capable to produce 3 ATP. One molecule NADH is capable to produce 3 ATP. So it's 6 ATP. So glycolysis alone produce 10 ATP. Alright. And then total amount of ATP consumed during the glycolysis is 2 ATPs, and the net ATP produced during glycolysis is 8 ATPs. Okay, this calculation doesn't require too much mathematics. Okay. Okay. Settle glycolysis, 8 ATP. Okay. And each Krebs cycle produce 3 NADH, 1 FDH2, and 1 GDP. Alright, each Krebs cycle means that one molecules of pyruvate produce 3 NADH, 1 FDH2, and 1 GDP. Okay. Sekejap. Mana dia kata satu lagi MADH ni? Okay, sorry. Forgot. Kat sini ada satu lagi NADH yang dihasilkan. Tapi ini tak involve carbon dioxide punya release. Okay, it's more on the rearrangement of malate to oxaloacetate here. Alright. So from malate to oxaloacetate, right? Dia kena release one electron, kena bebaskan, free out one molecules of, one electron. So electron will be intercepted by NADH here. Sebab tu ada 3 NADH kat sini. Alright. So 3 NADH, 1 FDH2 and 1 GDP. For each molecule of glucose, 6 NADH, 2 FDH2 and 2 GDPs are produced. Okay, maknanya dia times 2 dah lah. Alright. So each Krebs cycle produce 12 ATP. So 1 glucose molecules produce 24 ATPs produced during the Krebs cycle. If you don't, ni apa? You boleh kira balik lah. Okay. See, 6 kali 3 24. 6 kali 3 18. Ya. 2 FDH2 times 2 is 4. Alright. 2 GDP is 2 equal to 24. So total ATP produced from 1 molecule of glucose is 34. Tapi depends. Actually, the numbers of ATPs during respirations is always being debated by scientists. Ada scientists yang beranggapan, for example, FDH2 is not producing one molecule. FDH2 is not producing 2 ATP. Ada scientists yang their own opinions, it says that instead of 2 ATPs, it's only 1.5 ATPs. So 2 molecules of FADH2 only produce 3 ATPs instead of 4. Means that here, FADH2, kalau ada few other scientists say that 1.5 ATP. So it will not reach up to 34 pun. Ada yang kata kat sini for every NADH dia tak sampai 3 pun, 2 point something, 2 point plus tak ingat ATP. So the calculation will be different. And also the production of the ATPs in normal cells with the cells in our in the heart will be different. I think in the heart the ATPs produced are a bit more is a bit higher than in the normal cells because Tuhan dah jadikan memang jantung memang memerlukan ATPs yang tinggi lah. Alright, to start. So net ATP produced from 1 molecule of glucose is 34 minus 2 is 32 ATPs. Okay, so this is the calculation. Sebab tu kalau you baca, macam mana boleh dapat menghasilkan ATP ni, kenapa 36, kenapa 32? 36, 32 tu depends on the what we call time factors. Alright, of NADH, FDH and GDP. GDP taklah, GDP memang automatic satu je dalam Krebs cycle lah. Right? Because NADH, FDH ni dia they enter a further process in electron transport change. During the electron transport change tu yang menjadi subjective to some scientists, right? Yang come out with different calculation. Right? Tapi the basic principle is like this lah. Okay? It's 32 ATP. So from the equation kita dah learn how how the photosynthesis, how water is being how the carbon dioxides are produced, and how water are produced, and how ATP are produced, and then how ATP are calculated, alright, untuk mendapatkan numbers lah, how many ATPs actually being translated from electron carrier. Okay, so it's come to lipid metabolism dengan okay, benda ni simple je. Okay, kita ada protein degradation, kita ada lipid degradation. So kita tahu that protein is different nature to lipid, and lipid and protein are different nature to carbohydrate, right? But all these three will be broken down, right, to the molecules yang membolehkan molecules to enter the mitochondria, right? And finally, dia akan tukar kepada acetyl-CoA, because for the starting point in the Krebs cycle, it's only acetyl-CoA. So whatever molecules beforehand to start the Krebs cycle, it must be converted to acetyl-CoA first before the Krebs cycle happens. That's why during the link reaction, pyruvate need to be broken down to acetyl-CoA from 3 carbons to 2 carbons. So means 1 carbon is released to facilitate the to produce the only molecules that can enter the Krebs cycle. Selain acetyl-CoA, Krebs cycle takkan berlaku lah. Kalau more than 2 carbons, Krebs cycle takkan berlaku lah. Sebab tu Tuhan dah jadikan apa-apa molekul must be broken down first to acetyl-CoA before acetyl-CoA can enter the Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle can start the reaction to produce what? To produce the electron carrier. Settle. Actually, apa yang saya ajar ni, alright, so it's a fundamental. It's a fundamental where what is really happening behind every metabolic activities. Okay, during your concentration, you might go for the another 2 years lah. I guess your concentration will be, I think 1.5 years lagi kot, right? So you're gonna be some of you probably will enroll in breedings, right? Some of you might choose plant and soil and plant environments, okay, and then more probably some of you will choose the herbs and medicinal plants, right? So in the breedings, okay, you will not, for example, the selection of the best variety during the breeding process involve the plant physiology, which is mechanisms, right? If you go for the natural products punya concentration and all herbs, okay, we know that herbs will produce active compounds, right? Secondary metabolites ke active compound, because of the things that makes the herbs valuable because of the active compounds, right? So the production of active compounds started with glucose lah, right? Product of photosynthesis, and then during the produce ataupun production of the active compounds, dia sama je. Dia Tuhan tak jadikan bahawa okay, kalau you nak active compound A, it's not from glucose tu tiba-tiba tu jadi active compound A, tak. Katakanlah you nak produce alkaloid from A, takkan menjadi terus alkaloid. the series happens macam Kelvin cycle, mungkin macam dalam Kelvin cycle or Krebs cycle, involve the conversion, alright, the formation, alright, involve electron carrier, right, involve NADH, involve ATP, right, from A to B to produce that active compounds, right, it needs ATP, which is one of kawan kita jawab tadi, phosphorylation. Bila berlakunya phosphorylation, normally ATP. Okay, ATP yang biasanya akan supply the P yang sebab tu nama dia phosphorylation, right? So you cannot run actually. Okay, kalau you rasa ni paling susah, kalau ni susah, I think this is the most I think bagi paling senang lah. I mean, what actually happens behind the metabolic activities. Contoh, kalau takkan you nak belajar penghasilan active compound tu, you cuma tengok pathway saja. Kalau masuk pathways macam ni, this one is pathway, right? Right, this one is pathway, right? So dia sama je, right? Involve some of the pathway. Okay, because from for example phenylalanine to cinnamate, so coumarin, yang you tengok PALC4HC4Cl tu semua adalah enzim, alright? Enzim macam saya cakap tadi, ada yang kena activated by ATP, alright? Ada yang molecule itself, which is ceramates, coumarin CoA, naringenin chalcone, ni pun mungkin ada yang kena phosphorylated, alright? So the same principle applies to selagi nama dia metabolic activities. The same mostly is generally the same principle applies, right? You go for if some of you minat molecular biology, okay, so like this. This is very complex signaling molecules, which is I just nak bagi tahu you the why having knowledge, a very good fundamental knowledge in plant physiology, you boleh further your boleh memudahkan lah you untuk pergi mana-mana bidang yang you nak pergi. Okay, for example, this one molecular biology. You can learn in concentration plant and soil environments, and even in herbs, and even the breedings. Alright. So even kat sini saya tulis kat sini signaling network. Alright. For example, kalau you nak menghasilkan satu kata active compounds, these are the signaling molecules. Mungkin this one of the 1,000 signaling molecules lah. Tapi the principle apply the same, right? For example, you go yang kecil tu kan, ada yang kalau you boleh nampak dari situ is TNF or LPX, tu nama proteins lah, right? TLR4. TLR4 ni nak pergi kepada MYD68. Alright, cannot. Macam mana nak tunjuk? Kalau tak nampak. Kat sini tak tunjuk, tak boleh tunjuk. Okay. Nak kata lain adalah, nak beritahu adalah from protein to another protein to involve phosphorylation, ada electron carrier, it seems. Okay, even you involve in molecular biology. Alright, because in molecular biology, you study the proteins, you study the genes, what genes that encode, yang produce, yang code protein apa, what genes code protein apa, right? So to produce these proteins, alright, it will involve a series of the same apa yang saya just explain kat you. Even you learn biochemistry, dia sama je, principle dia sama. That's why the good, if you think that physiology tu payah because of the mechanisms, okay, these are the things that you gonna be facing to more details punya courses. You belajar plant biotechnology ke, you learn for plant molecular biology ke, of course you will be learning basic DNA, right? Basic DNA, basic transcription, basic translation, basic ribosome, what does the ribosome function, right? Tapi that is the part of the knowledge lah. Tapi yang penting yang you kena faham adalah it's not only what genes that encode these proteins, but you have to understand ataupun you have to know how does these proteins akan involve dalam metabolic activities yang design for them lah. Alright, so bukan hanya kerana okay from DNA to protein, alright, the central dogma of the central dogma of molecular biology is to produce protein from the DNA, right? DNA tu akan produce messenger and finally translated into protein. Tapi the important things juga adalah the mechanisms happens during the production of this protein, and also the importance of this protein. Why is this protein is being produced, right? Of course, ada permintaan, ada demand, right? So demand ni lah yang you tengok dalam signaling molecules like this. Okay, demand ni lah juga yang ada dalam Krebs cycle. Demand ni juga yang ada dalam Krebs cycle or whatever it is lah, right? Dia sebenarnya pusing-pusing kok tu jugalah. Alright. So go back to the plants. If the photosynthesis is higher than respiration, alright, dia akan berlaku pertumbuhan because of what? Ada extra carbon, right? Ada extra carbon. If the respiration is higher than photosynthesis, if the photosynthesis more than respiration equal to growth. Because of what? Because got extra carbon.